The story begins by explaining that the world was initially nothing more than a dark tempest until the goddess shed her light upon it, giving rise to a continent where 9 races were born: the Draconians, the Elves, the Soni, the Dwarves, the Demons, the Dark Elves, the Centaurs, the Beastfolk, and the Humans. And with that, the focus shifts to Light, a boy who excitedly bids farewell to his family, his parents, elves, and Yume, as the young man embarks on a journey to become a great adventurer, driven by the desire for all of them to live comfortably. Once he reaches the city, he gets slightly lost in the crowds, and right there, a member of the beast folk approaches him in an unfriendly manner, telling him that humans should keep their distance. Light simply apologizes and continues on his way, finally managing to find the place he was looking for: the Adventurers Guild. He goes through reception to register his name, and the receptionist informs him that he will start at rank F. He asks what kind of gift, or blessing, he possesses, and Light proudly replies that his is unlimited gacha. Seeing that she doesn't quite understand, Light decides to show her instead of explaining. He extends his hand, and a crystal-like object appears above it, which he simply presses to perform a gacha pull right there. Afterward, he takes the resulting card and says, "Release," to summon the item he obtained, but despite hoping to impress the receptionist, all he manages to conjure is a bent, completely useless fork. Seeing her distinctly unimpressed reaction in silence, Light gets slightly nervous and clarifies that this was just an example. He tries a couple more times, hoping to pull something better, but only obtains a rotten apple and a bit of moldy bread. Light tries to assure her that his luck isn't usually like this, but the receptionist insists that he must start at rank F, leaving him with no other option. So he asks if there are any jobs he can take immediately. After giving it some thought, the receptionist tells him that the easiest available quests are on the bulletin board. And seeing how lost he looks, she assumes Light has trouble reading, given the low literacy rate among humans. Keeping this in mind, she tells him that chores like gathering firewood, carrying earth, and cutting grass are always available, though the pay is quite low. Light has no problem with this, so he gladly takes all the jobs, spending the entire day working hard only to earn a few coins, which by the end of the day barely covers his lodging, meaning he now has to rely on pulling something edible with his gacha just to have a meal. As Light walks through the city, the same beastfolk members from earlier spot him counting his coins, so they deliberately push him, then blame him for the collision. Light stumbles and falls into a mud puddle, but the beastfolk members accuse him of dirtying their clothes and declare that he will have to pay for it. Before he can react, one of them grabs his coin pouch and says that will be enough to cover the laundry bill. Light panics and begs them to give it back, explaining that without it, he won't be able to pay for a place to stay the night. But the beastman simply punches him before he can finish, scoffing that those measly coins could barely rent a pigsty. So they are much better off in their hands, leaving Light with no option but to lay in the mud penniless and without a place to sleep. People around him ignore him, and some even tell him to go sleep in the dumpster with the rest of the garbage. But as he sits in the mud, a woman offers him a kind hand, asking if he is all right. Light thanks her and takes her hand without thinking, but realizing his hands are covered in mud, he panics and immediately pulls away, apologizing for dirtying her hands. The elven woman, Sasha, tells him not to worry, assuring him she won't hurt him, but Light still looks distressed, so she decides to kneel down in the mud and hug him completely, despite the unpleasant stares they receive from the surrounding crowd, thereby proving her point. Light remains frozen, trying to process the fact that this elf stained her knees just to embrace him. He wonders aloud if he's dreaming, but the woman assures him that he is awake and that this is real. She helps him up gently and introduces him to her group, the tribal concord. And one of them explains that their group's name represents the 9 races created by the goddess. He is a beastfolk member named Garu, the woman from earlier is an elf named Sasha, and they are also joined by Drago the Draconian, Diablo the Demon, Oboro the Oni, Nano the Dwarf, Sioni the Dark Elf, and Santor the Centaur. Garu explains that the only thing they are missing is a human, and then the tribal concord will be the perfect adventuring party. Sasha mentions that they formed this group in pursuit of a noble cause, aiming to end racial discrimination and create a fair world for everyone, which is why they need someone like him to join, and that they would be happy to welcome him into the tribal concord. Light's eyes fill with hope upon hearing this, and he thanks them with a big smile, accepting the invitation to join the group. Shortly after, the group decides to explore a dungeon filled with dangerous monsters. And Light would surely have died if not for them. Drago saves him from being killed by a giant serpent, and Sasha uses her bow to shoot down another monster attacking him from behind. After clearing the area, she approaches Light and scolds him for moving too far ahead. After all, they are in the largest and most difficult dungeon in the world, and he would die instantly if anything hit him here. Light apologizes again, but Sasha gently cups his face to check if he is hurt. The others start teasing her, mentioning how cute it is to see her fussing over Light again, which makes her visibly nervous, and she hurriedly clarifies that it's not about Light himself, but that she doesn't want the reputation of the tribal concord to be ruined by losing a member. Of course, nobody believes her, but Drago lets it slide and tries to reassure Light, telling him that they love the tea he makes for them, so he is already contributing enough. That comment undoubtedly cheers Light up, so they all decide to move on since they still have a long way to go. The group makes sure to protect Light inside the dungeon until Garou notes that there's only one entrance and one exit. Drago says that in that case, this place should be a good spot, so Light assumes they are going to take a break and decides to prepare tea before Drago can say anything else. Drago tells him it won't be necessary and informs him that he is being expelled from the group. Seeing his confusion, Garou directly tells him they are kicking him out of the group, but Light still doesn't understand what he did wrong. Sasha's attitude also changes completely. She looks at him with contempt, telling him he is so stupid that it infuriates her. Sione agrees, saying she can't tell if Light's ineptitude is due to a lack of neurons or if it's just typical of humans. The entire group thinks the same, and they no longer even try to hide their repulsion towards him. Light still can't believe the situation, considering how kind they were to him before. Drago clarifies that the kindness was all a facade because they wanted him in their group. Drago explains that it has to do with his gift, the unlimited gacha. Their superiors noticed the peculiarity of his gift and suspected he might be a master, which is why they invited him to the tribal concord to keep a close eye on him. Light tells them that doesn't make sense since they themselves know that his unlimited gacha is a useless gift that serves no purpose. Garou confirms this, saying his gift is trash and his stats are those of a common human, so the higher-ups were wrong to suspect he was a master. They decided he couldn't possibly be the master, meaning he's nothing but a hindrance. Garou quips that it would have been better if the bosses had made this decision earlier, as it was obvious from the start. Sasha mentions she's greatly relieved because, while marrying a master would have secured them powerful bloodlines, the mere thought of having to marry an inferior makes her shudder. Garou tells her it was quite amusing watching her behave so suck-up-ish around him just to keep that possibility alive, but Light still doesn't understand what they are talking about. Drago warns them that they have revealed too much. But Garou replies that it doesn't matter because Light won't be talking for much longer. Drago urges him to finish it before other adventurers show up. It is then that Light finally grasps the reality. They explain that they received specific orders to eliminate any potential trouble at the root and not leave him alive. Garou swiftly uses his claws to slash Light across the face, and Light tries to process the sight of blood on his hands. At that moment, his expression turns to horror as he realizes they all want him dead. He immediately begins running for his life in a panic, but Garou laughs and tells him to keep running because he'll only end up minced by some monster in the abyss. Sasha clarifies that that will only happen if he manages to escape, which is highly unlikely in this case. Before he can get away, she uses her bow and shoots an arrow straight into his leg, sending him crashing to the ground. Light screams in pain, and Garou relishes the sound, saying it's his favorite thing about hunting humans. The others agree, so Garou lunges toward Light to attack him again and make him cry even harder. He kicks Light several times, but Drago stops him, saying that's enough. Of course, Garou is not happy about this, but Sasha reminds him that they already agreed the cover story is that he supposedly died in a surprise monster attack, so he should stop giving him injuries that contradict that. With no other choice, Garou decides to give him a quick death. But Light keeps fighting for his life, desperately trying to escape. He cries and tells them he doesn't want to die as he weakly crawls. Light exclaims that he wants to live, and when he places his hand on the ground, a magic circle suddenly appears. Drago assumes it's a teleportation trap, so he tells Garou not to let him escape. Garou leaps to finish him off with his claws, but Light vanishes completely before he can touch him. Now in the depths of the abyss, Light feels relieved to still be alive. He realizes he activated a teleportation trap that sent him to another part of the dungeon. Although that changes nothing because he's still doomed the moment he encounters one of the insane monsters that inhabit this deep abyss. The only thing he can think about is how much he misses his family, wondering why all this is happening to him. The tribal concord treated him so well and showed him such kindness that he genuinely appreciated, respected, and believed in them. He was so happy, and yet it had all been a lie, as they had tricked him into joining the dungeon expedition, and then tried to kill him. They treated him like trash, mocking him. And he still doesn't even understand what they meant by the master, but despite everything, Light is now resolute. He is going to kill them one by one. He cannot die in this dungeon until he makes them pay and suffer. Just as he declares this, a giant level 1000 monster rises from the darkness behind him. Light doesn't know how that is even possible, as it's the kind of monster people only hear about in folktales. He then realizes he was teleported to the absolute deepest part of the abyss. The enormous monster slowly approaches, and Light can do nothing but stare in panic, yet he knows he cannot die yet. Still, he has no way to fight it because all he possesses is his gift, so wishing to see his family again, he tries again and again to pull something he can use to survive. Suddenly, his desire to live manifests, and several magic circles appear around the crystals of his gift. The monster immediately lunges at him, but the voice of a woman echoes through the area, declaring she has no mercy for anyone who threatens her master. With her mere appearance, the monster is torn to shreds, instantly crumbling at his feet. Light watches in shock as she cleanses the spot with a single sweep of her hand and gracefully approaches him to kneel. The woman doesn't hesitate to heal his wounds and apologizes for her actions, saying she couldn't bear to see his composed face and flawless skin marred by such scratches. Light notices that the wound on his leg also vanished and that all the pain is gone. The woman refers to him as Master and asks if he would grant her the honor of hearing him pronounce her name with that beautiful voice. Light nervously introduces himself, and the woman repeats his name several times, clearly delighted with how it sounds. She mentions that according to the maid's code of honor, her duty is to her master and she will live in his service even unto death. Having said this, the woman declares that she hereby swears her absolute loyalty to him. Light doesn't know what to say to this but decides to ask who she is first. In that instant, the woman reveals her level is 9,999 and that she is known as May, the ever-seeking maid. She is a super ultra rare card that came from his unlimited gacha. Light tries to process the information, but May decides to make a vow right there, telling him she will remain bound to him even beyond the grave. He tries to tell her that's impossible since his unlimited gacha is essentially useless, so someone as incredible as her couldn't possibly have come out of it. May simply ignores that and asks him to call her by her name instead of Miss. Light reluctantly agrees, but this clearly makes her happy, and she asks him permission for another humble request. May tells him she wants his authorization to use her evaluation skill to review the details of his unlimited gacha. Light asks if evaluation is actually her gift, but May clarifies that it is merely one of her innate abilities, to be precise. She tells him it is inconceivable that his gift is useless, so she wants to evaluate it for herself. Light decides to agree, so May uses evaluation to see the details of his gift and is left completely speechless. She states that his abilities are hidden under a heavy layer of concealment, making it impossible for anyone not at her level to see the true details. Knowing this, May clarifies that his unlimited gacha is far from useless. His gift, unlimited gacha, can be pulled infinite times, and the probability and rarity of the cards it produces vary based on the surrounding mana density. The rarities, starting from the highest, are extra super ultra rare, SS rare, S rare, rare, normal, and error. Light finds it hard to understand all this, so May explains that mana is something that flows throughout the world. However, its density is lower on the surface, meaning the appearance of a super ultra rare card like her is almost nil. But mana abounds in the deep parts of the dungeon, which means he has a much better chance of pulling a rare card down here. May tells him that his bravery is admirable for having ventured alone to the bottom of the dungeon just to maximize his unlimited gacha, and even more so for pulling her card. That said, facing any monster could be deadly given his current stats. Still, May assures him that he has nothing to fear because she will be with him at all times. From now on, Light suddenly interrupts her to say that wasn't the case he would never have dared to venture into the abyss on his own. He explains that he was with a group, but they ended up betraying him. They cut him, shot him with arrows, and he was nearly killed by his own friends. Light breaks down as he speaks, exclaiming that they mocked his gift and called him trash. All he wanted was to support his family, so he doesn't understand how they could treat him like that just for being human. The pain was unbearable. It hurt so much, and all for the sake of their grand speech about ending discrimination and creating a fair world. Light falls to his knees, weeping in frustration, saying he won't rest until they pay for what they did. May suddenly embraces him, wrapping her arms around him in a comforting gesture. Light instantly calms down, and she tells him that a maid like her cannot possibly comprehend the depth of suffering he has endured, yet he must be sure that with her power at his disposal, bringing divine retribution upon his enemies is a simple matter. He only needs to give the order. By her maid's honor, she will pursue those unfaithful deceivers with maximum acceleration and present their heads on pikes before him. Seeing her dark and threatening expression, Light pulls away and tells her she cannot do that. After all, he trusted them and was deceived, nearly dying after being beaten and sent to this hellhole, but that only happened because he was weak, so the only thing he has to do is get stronger. It might be impossible for a human like him, but he wants to take revenge with his own hands and make them suffer. May kneels before him, telling him his wish is hers, and she will therefore help him obtain his vengeance, as she believes in his potential above all else. Light thanks her for her loyalty, and with that, he pulls his unlimited gacha again to establish a base camp, his path to vengeance, and thus the black depths were bathed in a brilliant light, becoming the first page of his great story of revenge, and thus ends Chapter 1.